One of the features I like from jQuery UI library is the autocomplete. What the autocomplete does is you provide a list of words that when you start working with it, like input fields like we have in our forms, when I click and I start typing in a certain character, it's going to come up with a list so I can choose from that list. So it's a feature that helps prevent the user from having to enter the entire word or sets of words. So when you find yourself that typically they have to choose from a certain list anyways, it's better to go in and have that list provided to them, and then once they start typing it in, they can choose from that list and it'll insert it into the input field itself. This is going to help cut down on errors because a lot of people can't type. Um, so, especially if I had to tell you, let's type out Mississippi, so you're going to know you're going to get some spelling mistakes in there. So if we have it as a list, it makes our life easier on that part. So to get this to work out, we would use the jQuery UI library because they have a nice little widget that allows us to work with this aspect. And what comes down to is basically the list is actually an array. So we'll see that here in just a second. Now, what I have here is in the form itself, I have an input tag, and I gave it a class and gave it a name called state. You can use an ID if you wanted to uniquely identify it. That will work as well on that part. And then all you have to do is, I'm going to have up here in my document ready, I just have to indicate the input that I'm working with. So since I'm working with jQuery, and I do have the library to the jQuery UI library as well. So both jQuery libraries, I forgot to mention, you have to have the link to the jQuery library as well as the jQuery UI library, and they're linked up here in my head section. So with that said, I can then start typing in some jQuery information. So I'll do a $sign to start off with the selector, and then within this I'm going to put in quotation marks. I'm going to say .state, and then I'm just going to say autocomplete. Now when I do and work with this, I need to go in and indicate the list. Now the list of items that I want to have the option for. So this is where you have to know a little bit more about the methods that are available for the autocomplete. And so what we have to do is we're going to have to go in and work with the source aspect for this. So with autocomplete, we're going to put in parentheses, and I'm going to put in a closing or opening curly bracket right here. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the source option, and so I typically type in source colon, and then after the colon will be a square brackets, which basically is a set of array. So I already have it done, so I'm going to go ahead and paste this over. As you can see here, you can see that the source colon, and see how you have the square brackets. This is just an array. This is just an array. So you go in, you separate your array instances by commas, and then each of those items are within quotation marks. So as you can see here, have all the states listed on that part. So once I save this and I run this, let's just take a look at it real quick. Okay, so let me type in O, and here's the thing, what's happening is it's going to find any letter O in your state abbreviations. So then what they can do is they can come down and click and insert that in. Now as you see here, you can notice it comes up as a bullet list. Okay, so just like on most jQuery UI libraries and the methods that you're working with, you have to customize and stylize to fit your color scheme and your website. So Like here, again, a bullet list is nice, but it probably doesn't fit your design on that. So we'll go in and modify a little bit in just a second. Now, when you start working with something like this, again, the source has to be an array. The source has to be an array. So now you can go in, because this autocomplete can get a little bit too busy. So what I've done, what I can do as well is I can go in and declare a variable. I'm going to take and cut this out real quick. Okay, I'm going to come up here and declare a new variable. And then what I'm going to do is assign the array to that variable. But then I also have to go back into my source down here and have it call for that variable. So here, just like that, ab states. Okay, now, okay, so let's run this real quick. As you can see here, it comes up with the same information, but this becomes a little bit more cleaner look. So that way, in case you need to use that array of abbreviations, you have it already stored in a variable, so it could be used in other functions on that part. So then from that standpoint, then you have to go in and do some customization of your styles. So if you don't want those bullets to come up, then you're going to have to go in and work with your style sheet. So with this autocomplete, one of the styles that we work with is we type in .ui hyphen autocomplete. It has to be for the class, and with my other videos I've talked about, each of these little options that we have in jQuery UI has certain ways to format, and so you have to go and look at the API documentation, and it'll tell you what you can stylize for each of those methods in that. So in this case, all I'm going to do here is I'm just going to tell it to say I don't want no bullets. So I'm going to say list style none. Okay, so let's just take a look at it now. Let me open back Chrome. Let me refresh this. Okay. So once I type in the letter O, notice there's no bullets. So this, when we start working with this, the key here is the UI autocomplete. That is the class that you need to stylize that drop-down list. Okay. Now, what else can you add to it? Anything you do with CSS. So if you wanted to go and customize it and have like a white border or a border and a background fill to it, you can do so. So here what I'm going to do is just going to copy over some code, styling. So what this is going to do is going to control the position of the drop-down list. It's going to go in and make sure the width is a certain width. It's going to add some padding in that area, so that way the text is not so close to the edge. It's going to add a little color for the border and a little radius around there. So let me save this and let's take a look at it now. Fresh. So here you have a little drop-down list, and see how the box comes around. You have like a little white fill and so forth. So the key here is now you're going to go in and you're going to modify your styles here to fit your color scheme. So this is just regular CSS, and it has nothing to do with jQuery on that part. The only thing it has to do with jQuery is this little library class up here that you have to put in. So anything you learn about CSS, you can apply to it. So if you want to modify it, here's the background color. You can go in and modify that aspect of it. So again, that's something to take a look at. It's a great little feature. So think about items that you want to create to have automatically come up as a list so they can choose from. And definitely, again, it's going to help you get more accurate results from the user, especially if they can't, I joke around, can't spell, but it is something when we start typing it quickly, it could become an issue and so forth. So again, it's a great little aspect of this. Again, take a look at jQuery UI and look at the API documentation. There's other things you can apply to it, and they show you different examples here that you can work with as well. And so it's something to think about adding to your design to make it a little more interactive.